All right.
Hey everybody, I'm super excited to have Laura Wood with me today. Laura, I don't actually even have your bio in front of me, but I know that I'll let you introduce yourself.
Amazing. Yeah. So, hi guys, I'm Laura. I'm a mom of two. I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I am the founder of the Lavish Method. And I basically teach women who just want to lose weight a simple way of eating that doesn't involve giving up wine or chocolate or any of the things that make life worth living. And I base that mainly on teaching women how food works and how to eat and what macronutrients mean and how to use them.
Perfect. Which sounds so great for us because in Running Moms and in this training group here, we talk a lot about eating real food, about eating balanced meals, about not skipping meals, about drinking lots of water and staying hydrated, and how important nutrition is to our bodies because we're runners, like we are breaking ourselves down. And we need to be building up. So I talk a lot about real food and balanced food, but I feel like we need to dive deeper into what that means. I just really focus on it a little bit because we're talking a lot about mindful eating as well. So we talk a lot about tuning into our hunger and feeding that hunger and appreciating what that feels like and how food kind of makes us feel good and bad and learning that. But now I want to talk more about macros. I'm hearing about them everywhere and they're really, really important. So talk to me about macros and why we need to care about them.
Okay. I love to talk macros. So I could do this all day long, and I'm going to try to keep it really short and sweet for you guys. And Carrie, just interrupt me if I'm going too far. So here's the thing. We get very caught up on food groups and calories and, how many calories are in foods and what's healthy and what's not. But if we simplify it, so if we look at food from just a science perspective of what food is made of and how it works in our bodies, there are three food groups. There are three things that all food is made of. There is fat, there is protein, and there is carbohydrates or carbs. That's it. So all food is either one of those things or a combination of those things. And those are macronutrients. So fat, protein, and carbohydrates are macronutrients. And so they're categorized as such. They're categorized as such based on like their scientific structure and the way they work in our bodies. But we're not going there because this isn't science. We're not doing science. We're doing food and nutrition, right? So basically the way I teach people to look at macronutrients is to look at a few key differences. So the number one thing is how they digest. So fat digests the slowest out of all of the macronutrients. And this is really important to remember. Fat is also the most calorie dense or the most energy dense, which is important too. So fat rings in at 9 calories a gram, which is a good thing. We need calories to live. So remember that. With protein, it's a little bit faster digesting than fat. So say where fat would take 3 or 4 hours to digest, maybe protein takes 2 or 3. Protein is less calorie dense, so it rings in at 4 calories per gram. And then carbohydrates are the fastest to digest. And this is really important to know, and we'll get into why. But carbohydrates digest anywhere within like half an hour up to maybe an hour and a half. So they move through your body really quickly. Calories ring in, or calorie-wise, it rings in the same as protein. So 4 calories per gram. Okay, so if we just look at the macros that way. So the only difference you need to know about really when we're talking about how to fuel our bodies and how to, run stronger in terms of nutrition and how to lose fat and all of those things, you need to know about digestion, because when it comes right down to it, fat storage and fat burning are basically two different one-way hormonal streets, and they completely depend on the macronutrients that we're eating, how they're digesting, and how they're affecting our blood sugar. Does that make sense so far? Okay, so I like to run through a scenario, and then we can talk a little bit more in depth about the different macros and what they entail. But let's talk about the scenario, because I run into this a lot with my clients. So say you are, your goal is fat loss, and you're doing all sorts of things to achieve that goal. You're watching what you eat, you're eating all the healthy foods, you're exercising, you're moving your body, and you go out for dinner. You're going out for dinner, it's your partner's birthday, their favorite thing is Italian food. So you're going out to an Italian restaurant, and you're scanning the menu and you want to pick the healthiest food that's not going to sabotage your diet. So most people, if they go out looking, for this mindset, they find the whole wheat pasta with the vegetables and marinara sauce, right? Sounds super healthy. Whole wheat pasta, veggies, some tomato sauce. You can't sabotage your diet with that. So let's talk about how that digests, because that is all carbohydrates. So carbohydrates basically entails your fruits, your vegetables, your grains, your beans, your legumes. So basically it's not just your bread and your bagels, it's also all your fruits, all your vegetables, and all your beans. Okay. So if we're picking this super healthy dinner of whole wheat pasta with sauteed vegetables and tomato sauce, that is all carbohydrates. So when we eat that, it all digests at the same time, right? So since it's all digesting at the same time, it's all breaking down to energy in the form of sugar, which is what carbohydrates do. They break down to sugar. So it's breaking down to sugar, and that sugar is all shooting it into your bloodstream at the same time because it's carbs and it digests fast, right? So when that energy or sugar gets into your blood, your body goes, oh, high blood sugar. It sends insulin in. Insulin is like a little transport molecule that comes in. It takes the sugar out of your blood and it delivers it to the working muscles, right? So in this scenario, and in a lot of scenarios for people, the muscles aren't really working hard. You're sitting at a pasta dinner, right? You're just hanging out, or maybe you're sitting at your desk, or you're in your car, or you're at your dinner table. But the point is, you're not running at this point. You're not moving. So all this energy that the insulin is taking to your muscles, it's going to your muscles, and your muscles are going, nope, don't need all that energy, thanks. And so insulin does what insulin does best, and it stores that energy as fat, because insulin is your fat storage hormone. Like that's insulin's jam. That's what it does, right? So now, not only did this amazing whole grain pasta dinner get stored as fat, but now your blood sugar is too low because all that food digested at once and sent all of its energy out at once, and insulin grabbed all of that energy at once. So now your body is so smart and so adaptive that what it does is it causes you to crave the thing that's going to raise your blood sugar up the fastest again. And that's carbohydrates, right? So now you're going to crave carbohydrates, and you're starting this, I call it the blood sugar roller coaster, where you're up and down and up and down and up and down all day, and you're tired, and then you eat something like chocolate, and then you feel better for 10 minutes, and then you feel like garbage and you're exhausted, and right? And you're just constantly up and down. So if you rewind, so if we go back to the beginning of the story, and instead of, choosing the low calorie, healthy option, if we think back to macros, how they digest and how they work, say we go out to this dinner and we say, okay, so if I need something that's going to support fat loss and support my fitness goals, then I need something that's going to result in low insulin, because insulin is what causes me to store fat. It is literally the fat storage hormone in my body. And I need something that's going to keep my blood sugar stable for a long time. Well, we know that fat and protein, those two are the macronutrients that digest slowly. They're the ones that result in lower insulin and stable blood sugar. So if instead of picking that whole grain pasta, we maybe pick a small bit of pasta with some bolognese sauce, with some really good quality beef in it, cooked in olive oil. And now we've got fat, we've got protein. And instead of all of that food digesting really quick and pushing its energy out, now we have slow digestion and little bits of energy coming out, met with little bits of insulin. Those little bits of insulin deliver that energy to the working muscles, who say, yeah, I may not be, running a marathon at the moment, but I could use some energy to maintain posture and hang out and do my thing. I can take that bit of energy. And so they can take it in and they can use it. And so now, even though the meal you're eating has more calories, right, and it's not necessarily healthy in that way, shape, or form that we tend to think about it, but now you're actually using that food for fuel, and you're actually using it to fuel your body, to build and repair your muscles, to make your hormones, all of those things. And so for me that's the perfect example of macros. And we can go back and talk about what constitutes macronutrients and all that stuff, but for most people, I think the concern is, if I eat fat and if I eat protein, that's so many calories, I'm going to get fat. I need to stick to these low calorie foods. And hopefully that illustrates that that's not the point. Does that make sense?
That makes such total sense to me.
Yay. Good.
And I hope it does for you guys. I mean, watch this. There's a PDF that I sent out with this topic.
Yeah.
Into this a little bit more into the science part of it. But I think, I don't think portion control is an issue for any of us, especially us runners. It's not portion control. It's what we're eating. It's like we need to balance. And I know for myself, this is how I used to run. I used to run and then not have any food and then grab a bagel, and I'd be starving for cereal. I need a lot of rice and potatoes and pasta.
Yes.
I literally ate no fat, and I literally ate no meat, and I was like literally exhausted, heavy and lethargic and grouchy all of the time. My runs were heavy. I never got fit. Like I never got like muscles.
Yep.
And after kids, I don't know, I was exhausted and I thought, you know what, I've got to do something. And I started eating. The first thing I did was started to eat more protein. And I started every day eating eggs, 2 eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, that's my breakfast every day.
Every day. Like it doesn't have to be difficult. It's simple. And
so easy.
It's not about the bread. Like I eat 2 eggs and a piece of whole wheat toast. Sometimes I'll have kale. I always put coconut oil spread on my toast.
Amazing.
Every day. And I feel like, I always get this word wrong, but satiated. I feel full.
Yeah, totally.
I feel full, so I don't have those sugar crashes and burns. And then generally I can get through until lunch, or I have like a power snack in the middle that I have. And then I have a full on lunch. And that's the energy difference, the body composition change, and the performance in my running and the intensity of my workouts has like so changed because of that. So what you're talking about really illustrates that. And runners, we're hungry, and I get that, but we don't need to be running hungry and lethargic if we're eating balanced macros. So how often should we be eating? Like what does a macro plate look like? Like what does that look like for us?
Amazing question. Okay. So I think before you get into that, you have to realize what each macro does for your body. So fat, the whole point of fat, it keeps you satiated. It keeps you feeling fuller longer, right? Like you were talking about. But fat builds your hormones. So as a woman and as a runner, that is hugely important, and you need to keep that in mind. If you were still, so many of you watching this, I'm sure, are still afraid of fat. My own mother took years to believe me and start eating fat again. And so keep this little mantra in mind. If you still think that eating fat will make you fat, it's like believing that eating green vegetables will make you turn green. No correlation, right? We're smart enough to know that the second part makes no sense. The first part makes no sense. So remember that you need fat for hormones, for brain health, and for feeling fuller longer, okay? You need protein for structure. So you need protein to build. You need protein to build muscles, to recover from really energy taxing workouts, right? You need protein to build your immune system, to build your hair, your nails, your skin, all of those things. Protein is huge. And you need carbohydrates to fuel quick energy. Carbohydrates are ideal for giving you energy. They break down to sugar, which is what your body runs on. So first things first is you need to keep that in mind when you're deciding what to eat when, because it's going to change based on your activity level. So let's run through somebody who's doing Running Moms. Do we normally run during the morning or during the evening?
Everyone's a bit different, but often the question I get a lot is I run first thing in the morning. What should I do?
Okay, so say we're running let's use that then. We're running first thing in the morning. So basically, you've got a couple different options here. If you are one of those people who gets up really early and you have time, say 2 hours between the time you get up and the time you run, you've got a little bit more to work with in terms of macros, because when you're running, you have to keep in mind that fat digests very, very slowly. So the last thing you want to do is eat a ton of fat and then hit the road running, within the next 30 minutes. That's, a cue for stomach upset, things like that. If you have some time, so let's run through 2 scenarios. Say you're up very early, like me, you get up at 5 a.m. And you wouldn't do any running till maybe 7. So in this case, you want to have some good quality fat, you want to have some protein, and you do also want to have some carbohydrates. So the breakfast that Carrie was talking about, so a couple of eggs, half an avocado, and a piece of whole grain toast would be amazing. Such a great way to start your day. If, on the other hand, you're getting up, say, at 6:30, and you're hitting the road by 7 o'clock, you're maybe going to want to wait on the fat till after, and you're going to want to start your day with maybe some overnight oats. So some good quality steel cut oatmeal, that's going to give you lots of good quality carbohydrates. You'd mix in some hemp hearts for some good quality protein, maybe even collagen protein powder, which is my personal favorite to add in for structural components. And you're going to fuel your run with some good quality complex carbohydrates, but also protein. And if you have enough time, you're going to add some fat in there. After you work out, this is the key part that most of us are missing. If you're doing especially, high intensity interval training or, power workouts where you're building muscle, because that's the goal, right? You're burning fat because you're building muscle, and muscle's metabolically active, which I know you talk about. So you have to hit up some really good quality food in the 45 minutes post-run. You need good quality protein and you need good quality carbohydrates. So those are the 2 things that are super important for right after a workout because, right? If you're doing all of this work and you're running, you're doing all of this work building these muscles, but you're not replenishing muscle after, what happens is all of that work, all of that stress on your muscles results in your muscles breaking down and tearing. And you're not actually giving your muscles the protein to build and become bigger and stronger. So it's really important to have good quality protein after, as well as carbohydrates, because the other thing you're doing when you're working out is you're bringing down your glycogen stores or your energy stores, which live in your muscles. And you need to build them back up so you'll have the energy to get through the day. Otherwise, you're going to end up exhausted by 2 p.m., hitting the wall, talking about, these energy crashes where you're craving junk food and you need a bagel, or, you need some chocolate or you need some chips or whatever the case may be. So that's really important to focus, around your actual workout, to focus your carbohydrates and your protein. So once we've got our workout in, then it's all about getting in really good quality fats, getting in good quality protein, and then dialing down the carbs because you're no longer fueling a workout, right? So, in my case, I always say to my clients, it's not about measuring. You don't need to measure your macros. You don't need to say, oh, I have X grams of carbs and X grams of fat and X grams of protein. And that's not what it's about. What you need to do is look at your plate. And I teach people to play find the fat. I find this to be one of the easiest things to do because we don't put enough fat into our meals, right? Mm-hmm. So you should be able to look down at your lunch and your dinner plate and easily pick out your fat source, whether it's nuts, seeds, olives, avocado, egg yolks, fatty meat, whatever the case may be, coconut oil, butter, ghee, whatever you're cooking with. You need to be able to look and see a solid source of fat. If you can look down your plate and see that, that's fantastic. That means you're getting in good fat. The other thing you need to do is pick your protein first. So instead of basing your meals around your carbohydrates, your grains, your pastas, your bagels, your breads, those should maybe come in last. Pick your protein. Figure out if you're, if you eat meat, great, fish, chicken, beef, lamb, whatever the case may be that your protein is. If you're a vegetarian, that's still easy. You've got your soy, you've got high protein vegetables like broccoli, you've got, if you're eating seafood, pick those things first and then round out with, I like to say, paleo carbs. So as grain-free as you can get, higher in, your sweet potatoes, your starchier vegetables. That's where your nutrients are. That's where the nutrient density comes in. And that also helps rebuild your muscles and helps you to train fitter, which is so important. So I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. And I like the key that it's not about counting your calories and measuring your macros, because none of us I don't want you guys to be getting crazy out there and getting super scientific about all this. Again, it's always about tuning in. And what I find when I eat this way is that I'm more hungry. Like I'm hungry, but I'm not craving the sugar. I'm not having the energy crash hunger. I'm just hungry. Like I'm hungry and I want chicken and I want kale and I want the good stuff. And that's what I want. So is there how many times a day should you be eating? And is there an eating window?
No, that's BS. Okay, whoever decided that when you eat after 7 p.m., you automatically store it as fat, that person should be locked up. The amount of time I spend on this, there's no magic time where all of a sudden you just store more fat. No. So it sounds so easy, but I really teach people to eat when they're hungry and stop when they're full. And it's really hard to do that at first. I get that. It's hard for my clients. It was hard for me to adopt that. I didn't grow up eating this way, so I get it. But that's what it comes down to. So if you are running, even if you are not running, even if you are sedentary, you're trying to work up the energy to run. Most people who are dieting or who are looking to lose fat are not eating enough calories. If you are watching this, I guarantee you, your problem is not that you are eating too many calories. I promise you. I would bet you $100 right now that you are not eating
$1,000.
$1,000, yes, honestly, because here's what's what people don't realize is that your metabolism is very, very adaptive and smart. And so I could do a whole segue into this, which I won't, but basically after a certain period of time, your metabolism will always adjust to match the amount of calories coming in. Meaning if you cut your calories for, more than a couple of weeks, I was reading a study that said, even cutting the calories for as short a time as 12 weeks for a 12-week, 3-month diet took 18 months for metabolism to go back up to where it was before you started reducing calories. So by cutting your calories, you're just literally using less and less energy every day. It's not going to work, and it's going to sabotage your workouts. You're not going to build lean muscle. Building lean muscle is the only way that you increase your metabolism. It's the only way you burn fat faster. So you really need to just leave calories alone. Stop looking at calories. If something's low calorie, odds are it's not worth eating because it doesn't have the energy you need. Fat has calories, protein has calories, complex carbs have calories. What doesn't have calories is simple carbohydrates that digest to sugar and store as fat immediately. Like that's what doesn't have calories. So for, those of you out there who are having a hard time with this, start by having a good dinner, start by having a good lunch and a good breakfast, a good lunch, and a good dinner with fat, protein, and some carbohydrates. My favorite is 2 eggs, half an avocado over greens. Like that's my go-to every day. I'm so boring every day.
And that's it. Like it doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
Simple.
No. So like I'm a nutritionist. I don't cook fancy meals 9 days out of every 10. Like that's my breakfast. For lunch, I usually have, again, a big plate of greens, tuna with avocado mayonnaise, so good quality healthy fats, lots of protein, veggies mixed into it. For dinner, I'll have really good like barbecued meat or whatnot with things like asparagus and Brussels sprouts and beets and carrots and just lots of great quality veggies. Simple, easy meals, right? If I'm active, if that's a day where I'm working out, then I'll add in some good quality carbohydrates like sweet potatoes. Sweet potato toast is a big trend with my clients right now. It's awesome and easy. You can Google it. And just kind of work from there. So I would start with 3 meals a day. See how you feel. If you're hungry in between meals, a little bit of hunger is okay. A lot of hunger is not. Don't make yourself go hungry because you don't think it's appropriate to eat. Snack on foods that are higher in fat and protein. Instead of just reaching for an apple for a snack, which is just carbohydrates, and now that we know how carbohydrates digest, you know that if you eat an apple alone, you're going to digest it. It's going to be through your system in half an hour. You're going to have a blood sugar high and a low, and then you're going to be hungry again. Why not try pairing that apple with some almonds? So now we've got fat and protein. So instead of that up and down, we have very steady, stable blood sugar because that's what it's all about. That's what knowing your macros is all about. It's about knowing that you can maintain steady blood sugar, low insulin, high energy, and burn excess fat instead of storing excess fat. That's the results of looking at your macros instead of your calories, right?
Absolutely. And this is exactly how runners specifically gain weight when they're training for longer distances, because you are hungrier. Your body is pushing. It is hungry. It needs more food. And when we're holding back and skipping meals and then grabbing something on the go that isn't macro balanced, we're not giving it what it needs. And so we're just constantly eating those carbs and we're gaining weight despite pushing our distances and pushing our bodies. And I know this is like entirely the whole reason I started this whole Running Moms thing, is to help you guys learn how to train strong and do the right workouts, but also incorporate the eating, because nobody is talking about runners. And I don't like seeing you guys out there pushing and struggling, because I want you to feel amazing. Like it's not about the number on the scale, but you want to feel good. I don't want you feeling lethargic and heavy out there. I want you running your half marathon strong. I want you running your 5Ks badass. So this to me is just so helpful. What else can I talk about? There was another question I had in my head. What else am I missing here, girl?
I feel like you hit it good. Like you've talked about it well. I'll say that in all the clients I work with one-on-one, and I'm very busy, I work with a lot of different clients, and the few times that we hit weight loss plateaus, when somebody's working with me to lose fat and they're, moving their body and they're, doing everything right, the few times that we'll hit a plateau and we can't figure out what's going on, when they bring me in food journals, it's always because they're not eating enough. Every time calories go down, weight loss stops. Calories go back up, it all goes back out.
And that was actually my question. When I first started to tune into my own macros,
yes,
I got a lot of people were talking about carb cycling, and I was kind of interested, but it was not for me because I didn't like all the particulars. It was stressful. It's like eating disorder triggering.
Yep.
So what I did was use my Fitness Pal. And
Yes.
I tracked, but it wasn't perfect, but it was there. And what I noticed was my carbohydrates were so high. I barely ate any fat, almost nothing. It was crazy. Yes. So what I got, I just did it for a few days, but it really helped me to tune into my food and the choices I was making.
Absolutely.
So instead of the apple, I eat it with almond butter and chia and hemp seeds all the time, right? I'll cut it up, put my almond butter, drizzle in my hemp seeds, but it just made me just really tune into what I was missing in my diet. And then that really dialed in my nutrition even more, despite all of the rules and regulations of all of that. It's just knowing those macros and making sure you're having them and tuning into your hunger.
Yes.
Listening to that. And if you're craving carbs all the time and you're crashing, tune into that and think what you're missing. What didn't you eat this morning? And every time we're skipping those meals and reaching for those carbs, we're not giving ourselves the nutrients that we need. So we're kind of starving.
And with your body too, there's a lag time. And this is where people get really confused. So if you're crapping out and getting exhausted at 2:00 in the afternoon, most people think, well, I didn't eat a good enough lunch, or I didn't eat. Usually that trigger is way back up at breakfast time.
Right.
So if there's any point in your afternoon where things are you're getting exhausted, you're craving, carbohydrates, chocolate, whatever, you feel like you could crawl under your desk and sleep. We all know that feeling. You have to dial all the way back to breakfast because you didn't set your blood sugar up to begin with at the beginning of the day. And so basically you started off lower than you needed to be. And then you spent the whole day getting lower until lunch when you didn't eat enough, because most of us don't eat enough fat and protein at lunch anyways. We eat very carbohydrate-based lunches and breakfast. And then so by the time 2:00 rolls in, you're just bottomed out. So you need to pay attention, and you need to, pay attention to everything from the beginning of the day on, not just from an hour before you had that feeling, right?
Right.
Huge.
And I remember I used to do that. I used to go to, when I had a desk job, I was terrified of gaining weight with a desk job, right? I was sedentary all day. So I would eat my breakfast, but I wouldn't eat my lunch. I would go to the gym and I'd work out, and then I'd have coffee.
Yep.
I'd have Diet Pepsi.
Yes, Diet Coke.
Head down on my desk, eating my lunch at 2:00, finally getting to my lunch, couldn't keep it.
Done. Done.
You can't recover from that. And then your body is literally starving. And then I'd be in the snack drawer eating chips and popcorn and pretzels, right?
Totally.
I know that I'm not alone out here, which is why as soon as I looked at your website, I was like, oh my God, this is the girl we need to bring in here and talk to us.
Oh, I'm happy you did.
So Laura has an amazing 6-week program.
Yes. It's a 6-week. I mean, most people who do it end up doing it for ongoing,
right.
But it's a 6-module. Here's what to do in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how we roll.
Right. Yeah. And it's online.
Yeah.
Where can these guys find you if they want to follow you or take your course?
Yeah, if you want to know more or you have questions, I own Lavish Nutrition. So if you go to www.lavishnutrition.com, all of my stuff is there. I'm on Facebook. I'm all over Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And you can feel free to just ask me questions. I love talking macros. I love talking nutrition. So I'm always happy to answer things anytime.
That's so cool. I can't train you guys to run strong if you're not eating right. So this is I say it all the time, you can't run off a bad diet. So this is a really great conversation that dives deeper into what you should be eating and what you should, instead of what you shouldn't be doing. I hate all of that. Don't eat this and don't do that and don't do this. It's just you should be eating more. Enjoy your food.
Eat more food.
We're not going to tell you don't drink wine, because I drink a lot of wine.
Every night. I have 2 children. Every night.
2 boys. I can't survive without it. Thanks. That was so fun, you guys. You can find her at, lavishnutrition.com.
You got it.
I'll link to it too for you. That was super cool. Thank you.
Thank you.